Hello everyone and welcome to my Topaz guide. Topaz is a great damage dealer that also supports other carries in your party, so she is partly a support as well. A lot of strong carries like Feixiao or Dr. Ratio really like having Topaz in their party, and there will probably even more in the future, so Topaz will only get better and better with more character releases. In this video we're gonna talk about her kit, trace prio, stat goals, relic sets and stats, Lightcones, Eidolons and teammates. Topaz is an attack scaling damage dealer that revolves around her advance forwards for her little companion Nambi. We will start by talking about her talent. At the start of the battle, Nambi is spawned. You will see Nambi in the action order and it will deal an occasional amount of damage to the target with the proof of death status. If you hit that enemy with a follow-up attack by any teammate, Nambi will be advanced forward by 50%. Of course Nambi can't advance itself though. Nambi will attack even if Topaz is crowd controlled, but will disappear when Topaz is downed. Now onto the rest of her kit. Her basic attack is nothing special, but you will be using it most of the time. She is quite skill point positive though, especially in single target where you don't need to change your target often. Her skill afflicts an enemy with the proof of death status. Enemies with this mark will receive 50% more damage from follow-up attacks. This also applies to your teammates' follow-up attacks, meaning she can give a huge damage boost to your teammates' follow-up attacks. There will always be an enemy with the proof of death status, so at the start of the battle, when an ally turn starts or when they take action, one random enemy will be selected. If you use your skill on an enemy, it will deal a bit of damage, but you don't use the skill for its damage, you use it if you want to switch the proof of death debuff onto another enemy. Additionally, this attack is a follow-up attack by default, so whenever you use it, Nambi will be advanced forward. Topaz ultimate enhances Nambi's damage for 2 Nambi turns. The damage multiplier increases by 150% and crit damage by 25%. Another great effect of this ultimate is that whenever an ally hits the enemy marked by proof of death, Nambi will be advanced forward by an additional 50%. What this means is that within Topaz ult, basic attacks, skills or ultimates by any teammate can advance Nambi forward by 50% and follow-ups advance Nambi forward by 100%. I recommend to use your ultimate just after Nambi attacked, so that you won't waste any potential action advances. Topaz technique is quite nice. You can press it and it will stay active until your next battle starts, so you don't have to worry about a time limit. If this technique is active, Nambi will search the area for chests and other trotters, so it's quite good for exploring areas. When you enter a battle, Nambi will regenerate 60 energy for Topaz after Nambi's first attack, so basically nearly half her ultimate. After winning an overworld battle with Topaz technique activated before that, you will receive more credits after the battle, up to a maximum of 10k credits per calendar day. In addition to all of this, if you're in Simulated Universe, you receive a few extra cosmic fragments and you have a small chance to obtain one random curio if the technique was activated. In general, all of Topaz kit is about moving around the proof of death status, as well as advancing Nambi's action forward and enhancing Nambi's and your teammates' follow-up damage while generating a nice amount of skill points. Let's talk about her major traces now. Topaz A2 allows her basic attacks to be considered as follow-up attacks, meaning that you can advance Nambi forward with your basic attacks now. This synergizes especially with characters like Aventurine or Robin because of their follow-up attack mechanics or bonuses. Her A4 is a small damage bonus for Topaz and Nambi if they attack enemies with fire weakness. It's not insane, but it's still nice to have. Topaz A6 adds a nice amount of energy gain to Nambi's ult state attacks, 10 energy per attack, so basically 20 energy for free. With her kit now out of the way, I will quickly talk about her trace prio. Since she enables your other follow-up carries to deal more damage as well with the proof of death status, you should level up your skill above her other abilities. Afterwards you can go for her talent, then ultimate and at last her basic attacks. The most important major trace is A2 because Nambi advances way more often that way and you can profit from all those follow-up damage bonuses and synergies that other characters have. Afterwards I recommend her A6 because you'll want as many ult activations as possible, and at last her A4 since the damage bonus is quite negligible. For stat goals it is quite hard to find a great value since there are so many different factors that can influence those goals. For example, Robin can increase follow-up crit damage, which means that you can neglect crit damage a bit in your build, and so on. In general, I recommend about 2.6k attack. If you have heavy attack buffers like Robin, you can go for a bit less, like 2.2k. Since Nambi gains a bit more crit damage in ult state, I recommend to go for more crit rate. 80% crit rate will be enough alongside 160 crit damage. Topaz speed is quite important in order to advance Nambi a lot, so I recommend at least 134 speed, but if you can go for 143, I recommend that more. For Relics Sets, she has quite a lot of options that are not too far apart of each other. 4-piece Grand Duke is her overall best in slot relic set, but can be surpassed by 4-piece Pioneer. Grand Duke has a great 4-piece effect for Topaz. She is able to nearly max it out with Nambi's unenhanced attacks. When Nambi is in ult state, the passive is completely maxed out. This set is great if you don't want to think too much while playing her, it is good in every scenario. 4-piece Pioneer surpasses 4-piece Grand Duke, but only by a small margin. It can be tricky to activate the whole passive of it though, since you would need teammates that can apply some debuffs. An example could be Aventurine with the Trend Lightcone, applying 1 debuff when he gets attacked and 1 debuff with the ultimate. Combining that with Topaz Proof of That results in 3 debuffs on the same target. In the end, there's not too much difference between all those relic sets. You can even run 2-piece Grand Duke with either 2-piece Pioneer, 2-piece attack or 2-piece fire damage. Now for her Planner Ornament sets. Topaz just keeps getting more and more sets she can use. The new set Wondrous Banana Amusement Park will be great on her, but it will be quite easy to have too much crit damage. Great other options are Duran, Izumo and Inert Sasotto. The damage difference is not too far apart, but Duran will be the most solid and strongest choice. You can choose whichever has the best substats and just go for that. Topaz main stats are not that special, you go for a crit rate or crit damage body, depending on what brings you closer to the desired crit ratio. Most of the time you would want speed boots. You already have 110 speed without them and you can reach 135 speed without any extra speed rolls, which is great. If you can reach the 134 speed breakpoint without speed boots, then I recommend attack boots, as it will be a great buff to your overall damage. Other speed breakpoints like 143 and 160 are good too, but 134 is the most important one and easiest to achieve, since you won't have to sacrifice other stats for that. Of course, if you run her with Asta, you don't need any speed, so just go for attack boots with her. For her Planner Orb, you can choose between either attack or fire damage bonus. If your team already has a lot of attack buffs like Robin or Asta, fire damage bonus will end up being ahead. The difference is not too big, so you can choose whatever has better substats. Link Rope is an easy and no-brain choice, just go for attack. Now for her Lightcones. Luckily she has a lot of viable options, even a lot of 4 stars. Her best option will be, without surprise, her signature Lightcone. The stats she gains are great and it even buffs your other allies' damage. You apply a stacking debuff onto the enemy that increases their crit damage taken. It's a great Lightcone to have, but not too far ahead of the other options. Cruising in the Stellar Sea and Yanqing's Lightcone are great 5-star Lightcones as well. Swordplay and Only Silence Remains are great gacha Lightcones, especially at high super impositions. Final Victor can be obtained quite easily via the Forgotten Hall store, and it performs quite similar to Cruising in the Stellar Sea. Each Lightcone mentioned will perform great and you can adjust your build to those Lightcones. The most common choices are probably Cruising in the Stellar Sea or Final Victor, since there's no gacha involved when obtaining these. Topaz Eidolons are really not necessary, since she is a great unit without them already, but they will increase her potential to be an even stronger support as well as damage dealer. Topaz E1 is a good Eidolon and in general her stopping point. If the enemy is marked by Proof of That and they receive a follow-up attack, they will gain a debuff that lets them receive more follow-up attack crit damage. Each stack will increase their follow-up crit damage taken by 25% up to a maximum of 50%, so 2 stacks. This is a nice damage increase for all of your follow-up teammates and you don't need to think too much about it, since you will reach those 2 stacks very quickly. E2 is quite nice as well, it will give her a bit of energy whenever Nambi attacks. It makes it comfier and easier to ult every 3rd turn, but it's not really necessary. E3 and E5 only increase trace levels, which is okay but not really noticeable, and E4 advances Topaz forward by 20% whenever Nambi attacks. This is quite nice, especially with a lot of other follow-up attackers that can advance Nambi forward and thus also Topaz. E6 is quite strong, it increases Nambi's fire resistance penetration by 10% and Nambi also gains 1 more ult charge, which is great. Her Eidolons greatly amplify her kit to a very high level, but as I already mentioned before, she is very strong without them already. Her E1 is good, but compared with her signature Lightcone, I would prefer her Lightcone more, especially because you can give it to other characters. If you want your Topaz to be more supportive rather than damage dealing, I recommend her E1 over her signature Lightcone. Now for her teammates. Let's talk about Harmony units first, because you basically always run one in your team. Her best option is by far Robin. She's the best follow-up support and will most likely still be in the future, unless a new follow-up support releases. You always want Robin in your team if you have her, and Robin is just a great pull for your account in general. Great other options are Ruan Mei, Asta and Sparkle. All of them are outshined by Robin, but they work great with Topaz to a certain extent. In almost every Topaz team you want another damage dealer, because Topaz can enable them to do even more damage because of her Proof of Death. The greatest damage dealers that profit the most from having Topaz in your team are Fei Xiao, Dr. Ratio and Yun Di. Especially Fei Xiao really appreciates Topaz for her frequent attacks as well as Proof of Death debuff. I always recommend running one of them next to your Topaz. Those three work the best, but other options like Clara, Mose or the new March work as well. There will most likely be more follow-up characters in the future, so it's quite likely that Topaz will gain even more teammates. For sustain options, Aventurine is clearly the best since he wants follow-up teammates as well, just like Topaz. Ling Sha is the new healer and she has a follow-up attack as well, so she is another good teammate for Topaz, being able to advance Nambi forward more often. She is made for break teams, but she is fine in other teams as well. Ho-Ho is another great option, giving the whole team attack and more energy, which Topaz really likes. Fu Zhuan is just a great unit in general and offers a nice crit rate buff to everyone in the team, which Topaz needs. Of course other teammates like Lynx, Lorcha or Gallagher work as well, but they don't have too much to show off, unlike the other sustain options. And that's it for this guide. If it helped you, I would appreciate a like and subscribe for more. I hope you enjoyed it and bye!